here is the start of my next project. I just picked up this Zero electric motorcycle. If you've watched my other videos, my Nissan Leaf that I upgraded, I sold. This is my rule is one out, one in. So I was excited, first of all, to sell that and get money. Second of all, that I can start a new project. So this is an electric motorcycle. It turns on, it runs, all the lights work. This one brake doesn't work, I'll have to fix that brake. And there's something weird going on with this chain tensioner back here. I'll have to look and see what's going on there. But the person I bought it from said that if you're on the low speed, low torque setting, it works. Sometimes it'll cut off. Anything else, it'll cut off more. Like it'll lose power, then you have to turn it off and on again. I think that's a throttle issue. It could also be a battery issue. This battery's 15 years old. I kind of went into this project thinking I might have to replace the battery anyways. If I get there, I get there. That'll be like a controller, motor, battery, charger, all that'll have to line up. So first I want to investigate this brake and see if I can replicate the throttle issue on the road and see what all's wrong with it and what all I need to fix. And my use case for this would be really fun to, I've actually never had a dirt bike, so this would be fun to ride around on trails here. There's a lot of public land here in Utah and national forests and BLM land like that. And also my wife would use this to commute to and from work because it has brake light, turn signals, and a headlight. It is street legal, so it could be registered for road use too, so it's dual sport. And it was kind of fun to go pick this up because I used my EV to go pick up another EV. And kind of my big vision is that I might go out to a national forest land, ride this. It probably has a 40-mile range, so ride that for 2 hours or so. And then I have the V2L function on here, so I could charge the bike off of my car overnight, and then when it's fully charged, go ride again. I think that would be a really fun trip. And this bike was made in 2009, so it's actually 16 years old. It was one of the first electric motorcycles ever. And I believe it's a Zero MX is the model, 2009. And right away I know the question asked most is going to be, how much did you pay for it? I got this for $700. I think that's pretty good given that this runs and functions. And people out there are paying $3 grand or more for an e-bike that goes slower and has way less functionality than this. So I was more than happy to pay $700 for this. It's like halfway between a mountain bike and a dirt bike, kind of in the Sur-Ron realm. And all the Sur-Rons are selling for $2 to $5K right now. So that's why I jumped on this one. It just made sense at the price. First thing I'm gonna fix is that is way too much chain slack. So the whole motor can be shifted forward. To fix that, so I'd have to loosen this bolt, that is just a pin. Oh, and I'd have to loosen that one too. And then this is actually a tensioning plate that can pull the whole motor forward that way. So I'll see if that can take up the slack. If not, I probably need a new chain, or there's something weird going on with this chain guide. I don't like how close the main battery positive gets to the frame when you slide it forward, but it has a protective cap cover grommet on it, so it's probably okay. This sprocket also looks definitely not factory. They would not have used a black oxide bolt that can rust like this, so I'll have to investigate that too. I checked the Zero manual and it said 1.25 inches max play on the chain. This is more like 2.5 inches, so I'm gonna, hopefully there is enough space to slide and tighten this and get that down to 1.25 inches. And I'm already frustrated because this lower left bolt, there's like not access to get a ratchet in there, so I'm having to like figure out how to do this, and it's seized. Already a frustrating design. I ended up having to take off this foot peg, disassemble torsion spring and all, and now I can fit through that hole. And I'm going to put a wrench on and turn it around. I've got the chain to the correct tension now, and then I went to tighten the bolts. These tighten fine, that tighten fine. And this one, the motor boss sheared off. But I looked down inside there and there's still 3 or 4 threads left. So I will just buy a longer bolt, but I don't want it to be too long because then it could start to hit the windings as they turn. So I'll have to get the right length bolt there. And I won't tighten that one super tight. These 3 are more than enough to hold the motor in place. It's just nice to have the functionality of this tensioner there too. Here's the longer bolt, also stainless so it doesn't rust. Now I'm going to go install it, and hopefully it's not too long. If it's too long, I'll just stack more washers by the head of the bolt. That bolt's in. It was kind of hard to install because half the threaded portion was cracked off, but it's in. I tightened it, not a ton, but tightened it enough. Now this is installed. And already something I know I want to upgrade immediately is this doesn't have a kickstand. Obviously it's a dirt bike. It doesn't have a kickstand. But if I'm going to be using this to ride around in the city and park at places, I need a kickstand. I can't just lay it on the ground or carry a stand with me. So I'm not sure if I can add one. I don't really see threads anywhere here to add a kickstand. So that might be challenging. If I want to add a kickstand, this plane is like 11-12 inches off the ground with the bike under its own weight. So if I get like a 10 to 11 inch kickstand, that'll let it lean a little bit. And I think what I'm going to try to do is build a bracket off of these 2. These are already threaded holes. Build a bracket off of here somehow with a mounting plate on it that the kickstand can then mount to. I think that will work. But honestly, I'll probably do it on the other side, that's the non-chain side. So it doesn't get in the way of the chain at all. All the photos I've seen of these MXs have this guide kind of in this upright position like this. And I don't know why this is so loose. I think it's probably, oh, you know what? It's just a clamp style and it's bottomed out here and loose here. So if I just tighten this bolt, it'll probably stay put and that'll be fixed. And I just found the true root cause. This part was broken off here at the bolt head. So I think what I can do is I think I can 3D print one of these. I'll take measurements, and thankfully the threaded part is still intact, and this is the part that actually needs to be the special material because the chain runs on it. It needs to be a Delrin, some sort of slippery plastic. This can be any general 3D printed plastic because there's nothing rolling on it. So I'll get one of those printed and have this fixed. Here's what I 3D printed. I just took some measurements, made a CAD file, then printed it. This is just ASA material. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty good match, and I think it's going to work. Obviously, the color doesn't match, but this lower part honestly blends in more with the swing arm, and it's not visible. And here it is installed. It's on there pretty solid. I didn't tighten the screws too much, because I didn't want to end up with the same issue of it cracking. And then looking down the line of the chain, it's pretty straight to the sprocket. So left to right, it's lined up. And the front brake actually works just fine. It's the rear brake. I adjusted this adjuster knob. It was actually bottoming out, so it wasn't braking at all. But now it does brake. But I'm looking at the pads and they look quite thin, so I'm going to take it off and check the pads. Same thing with the front pads. The rear pads aren't quite metal on metal. The right side of this upper pad is close, so I'm going to get some of those ordered. I want to put it back on because I just want to be able to ride this and do some testing and try and replicate the fault condition the previous owner was talking about where it would cut off and lose power. I just want to make sure I'm safe enough to ride, so with both brakes functioning enough, I'll be able to ride it around and get it up to speed a little bit. I do see wear on the metal here though, and I think that means that the disc has been rubbing on here. So what I'll do is I'll adjust these two and slide it over a little more, and maybe that'll help grab a little sooner and I won't have this traveling so far. And these two screws on top were like finger tight, so I'm glad I checked that because now these are tight. I think it's aligned a little better and I won't have that like angled wear pattern I saw on the pad because these had shifted out of alignment. The front pads have like 4 times as much material left on them, so they don't even need to be replaced. But the rears definitely should. These are Hayes Stroker Ace brakes. I'm not really familiar with these pads. Now, if anyone is, let me know what pads I should get for this kind of dual sport use. They might see some water and dirt from some of the off-road use I'll be doing. And the last quick thing is this brake trigger got kind of bent and stuck and it wasn't working, but now it's working at least enough to, I might have to buy a new one at some point, but this will work for now. Alright, so before I go out and ride it, I just want to do a quick overview. I know before I was saying it was a 2009 MX. I looked at the VIN on the tube up here and it's actually a 2009X. The difference between the MX and the X is the MX is more of the dirt bike version. I don't believe it has any of these lights, and I think it has beefier rims and suspension. I think that this weighs about 150 pounds, and its claimed top speed is 60 miles an hour. The motor down here is a brushed DC motor. It is 23 horsepower peak, 50 foot-pounds of torque peak, which is pretty impressive. That is like the horsepower, 23 horsepower, that's like a 150cc 4-stroke, and 50 foot-pounds of torque is like a 600cc in torque for 4-stroke. So it doesn't have a lot of continuous power, but it does have a lot of torque. That's, when compared to gas bikes, that's how electric is almost always going to end up. The battery here is 2 kilowatt hours. It's a 14S battery times 3.7 volts. That's like 52 volts nominal. And at 2 kilowatt hours, Zero's claiming 40 miles of range. I think it's probably more realistically like definitely 20 if you're on trails, 30 if you're more on streets. So the motor down here, it's a PMG 132 motor. It can take up to 72 volts, but its limitation is current. It can take 200 amps for 2 minutes. The controller is actually tucked up inside here. The controller is an All-Trax. I believe it's an NPX 4834. That's like a non-adjustable stock kind of bricked controller that they used for this. The controller can only take 60 volts max. That's why they picked 14S, because 14S fully charged is like 58 volts. So this bike is essentially limited on voltage by the controller, but limited by current on the motor, because the controller can actually do 300 amps for 2 minutes. And the controller is controlled by a 0 to 5k ohm throttle potentiometer. Another interesting thing here is it has this speed mode. You can flick between 0 to 25 and 0 to 50, also high and low torque. And this is your battery level indicator. I don't know why they did this speed mode. It might be because under 25 miles an hour under, it might qualify as an e-bike and you'll get in less trouble if you're in that mode. I don't know if there's some onboard circuitry or if this is really just dividing the potentiometer in half so you can only get up to half speed. The torque on the other end, I don't know how you would adjust that. Maybe they're just adjusting the torque ramp. It probably still hits the same peak torque. It just takes longer to get there when you're in that mode. And then it has disc brakes front and rear. The fork, honestly the disc brakes look a little flimsy. It's kind of more mountain bike than dirt bike. Same with the rear shock and the front fork. I mean, I already know my mountain bike has more beefy forks than this. It does not have an onboard charger. The charger plugs into here. This is kind of the BMS, I guess, and charge unit. That is one of the fatal flaws of this bike, is that it self-consumes power. It can actually kill the battery if you have it unplugged for like a month on end. Here's the charger. It's quite massive and a huge heatsink. The nameplate says the output is 48 volts 18 amps. I know it's outputting more than that because it's 14S. It's probably outputting 58 volts or something, so this might be off. Zero might have customized this and modified it. It says lead acid 24 cells, so that's definitely not right. But if this is outputting 50 volts at 18 amps, so 900 watts, which means it would take 2 to 3 hours to fully charge the bike off of this. So I already know upgrades I can do. I mean, I can go really crazy with this. I can upgrade the disc brakes, the suspension. I know I can fit a much larger pack in here. I could probably fit a 60 volt automotive pack. That would require me to get a new charger. I would have to get a new controller. The motor could still take it. I could also upgrade the motor if I wanted to. But before I get crazy doing any of all that, I want to see where I'm at here and see what the issues are currently. If it cutting out is just a throttle issue, I know you can hook the throttle instead of going through this main communication board. I can hook it up directly to the controller. It's kind of bypassing some safety stuff, but that would be a quick fix in the meantime while I decide what else I want to upgrade. Just based on the hubs, disc brakes, suspension alone, are you going to do jumps on this? Probably not. It's not going to feel good. But riding it on forest roads, gravel roads, stuff like that, that's what I mainly see myself doing with this. It sounds pretty fun. And another thing I'll fix right away is the turn signal is limiting how much steering I can do. And I don't know if this is a stock part. I mean, it seems to fit with the color scheme, but these brackets with hose clamps, that doesn't really seem OEM. Maybe it is. But if I extend those out a little further, I should be able to turn quite a bit more. I mean, I'd have to extend this out beyond the fairing also, so maybe 2 inches. I could just do a bracket and extend it out 2 inches further. Then it'd be a lot easier. I mean, it's already annoying just moving it around in the driveway in the garage, and I can't imagine how annoying that would be actually on a trail trying to get around a rock or a tree. And I'm going to start in low speed, low torque to see if I can get it to trip. If I can't, I'll go to the higher speed. But if that still won't trip it, I'll speed high speed, high torque. So hopefully I can replicate what the previous owner was talking about and then try and track down what the issue was. So the chain's secure, motor's secure, brakes are functioning decently. Now it's finally time for it to go for a ride and see if I can figure out what's going on. Alright, this is my first time filming with the GoPro, so hopefully it goes well. I'm going to be on low speed, low torque. Bike is on. This might take multiple takes. Yeah, the brakes are okay. They can definitely be better. Yeah, and right there it already cut out. Oh, but it's got power again. Let's see if I can get it to do it again. It's riding fine now. Alright, I'll flip to higher speed. It's not going any faster on the high speed setting. I'm still probably only going 25. And And already this chain is so loud. And that kind of reinforces why my last two builds I used hub motors. Them being quiet is just so nice. Actually, you know what? I think you can only flip these speeds when the bike is off. So let's try that. I'll go to high speed, back to low torque. See if I can get up faster. See, controller just did a blinking. I didn't see how many lights it blinked. Yeah, it cut power. I think it was 6 blinks. And then it comes back. Alright, let's get it one more time, and I need to count how many blinks. Because it recovers pretty quickly. Seven blinks. Okay, I'm gonna go in the manual and see what 7 blinks means. But this is a great test. I already know a lot more than I knew before. So I just checked the online manual, and when this light flashes 7 times, that's saying that the board is overheating. I think that's the board inside of here. So I think the next thing to check is maybe running the throttle directly to the controller to see if I can get it to work that way, kind of bypassing this. And if that doesn't work, I think it's going to be a kind of just replace this board entirely and go with a new controller and potentially a new battery also. So battery, controller, throttle, and I could get, there's probably upgrades I want to do anyways. But that's all for now in this video. I'm going to investigate that. If any of you know what this 7 blink signal is, let me know. And in the meantime, I'm going to start diving into that and see what I want to do next.